I would say Dalton probably, this isn't technically a show, but Dalton's first ever PogoPalooza appearance. He tried to go all out in his final run, trying to huck a double backflip dismount right there on concrete, comes up a little short, breaks both his kneecaps and his nose.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Roe Show, where we are going to be bringing you the ups and downs of life on the road as an acrobatic influencer. We will be bringing on guests that are leaders of the industry so you can hear their stories and learn from their ups and downs. As I travel the world to new exciting places, I'll be having the hard discussions with our guests and touch on a wide range of topics from athlete development, business of sport, social media, and even philosophy of sport, and give you a full global perspective of freestyle acrobatics. And this week we have a group of athletes who are pioneering a whole new extreme freestyle community of pogo flippers. The X-Pogo team has been developing a whole new way of flipping, and they are going to tell us a little bit about their journey of developing their brand new community. Alright guys, let's go. Everyone, we are back with another episode, and this time we have a very unique perspective. We are bringing you guys a new team that has been around the world, bouncing around, doing their crazy stuff for the last little bit, bringing a whole new type of extreme freestyle sport to the mix. We are here with X-Pogo. X-Pogo team, how are you guys doing? Thank you for coming out. We want to hear about what you guys have done, what your journey is like. But first, I have to ask you, PogoPalooza, have you ever made that into a tongue twister? PogoPalooza, 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 and said 20 times really fast.
PogoPalooza, PogoPalooza, PogoPalooza. Definitely a tongue twister on its own to begin with.
It is. It's definitely a tongue twister. That's your new training program for every new pogoer. Is that what you call them, pogoers? I saw that on your press release.
We have many names for the pogoers. Pogoers, jumpers, pogo athletes. I think mostly we use jumpers is the term.
All right. So have you got, you guys have inspired a whole new wave of pogo jumpers. And what brought that on? How did you guys even think about this? Why not just stick to pogoing the way you do as a kid? What brought all this on?
Boredom. I mean, with any sort of like extreme sport or action sport activity, I think it all stems from a little bit of boredom. Like you get bored with doing the same repetitive thing over and over. You got to branch out, experience a little bit of creativity, and see what you can do with just, I guess, a pogo stick. In your case, a trampoline, anything.
Yeah, okay. So, but how did it start? So you basically went to Toys R Us, you bought a pogo, tried to do a backflip on it, it didn't work, and you said, screw this, I got to get something better. Like the pogos that you guys are using are industrial strength, are they not? Are they new? Have they been around forever, or?
They've been around since around 2004, 2005. Before that, it really started off on just these little spring-powered pogo sticks, and at that point, the few of us that were around really were, growing up in this culture of seeing the X Games everywhere, seeing skateboarding on TV all the time. And I think that sort of sparked it in a lot of people's heads to try to take this pogo stick and do these tricks on it. And back then we were jumping maybe a foot off the ground because these were steel spring powered pogo sticks. They couldn't go very high. And then it wasn't until around 2004 some of these big air ones started coming out, and that really opened the doors to creativity and the possibility, when you're 6 feet.
So then since 2004 is when X-Pogo, your team, has come together to really bring this whole thing to the forefront. I've watched a bunch of your videos. You guys are crazy. And it's very interesting. How do you train for this? I'm assuming you learned some stuff on trampoline, but then how do you get it to the pogo?
Well, I started on the trampoline and through gymnastics. And, as a kid, I was just a crazy spaz who would just be flipping around on anything that could get me some extra air. And so to train, once I got into Pogo, I would just train in my front yard, backyard, take all of the cushions from my parents' house and try to train these tricks safely. But, there's no established place to go. And most gyms were pretty wary of letting a giant metal pogo stick, bounding through their nice facility. So mostly it's pretty scrappy, just setting up in the backyard, find some soft things to land on and train there. Yeah. It's changed a bit from then, but not too much.
What do you do now then, if it's changed? That you have now like pogoing facilities, or?
No facilities, but each a lot of the individuals in the sport have parks or elements, little boxes set up at their house. Or at our headquarters in Pittsburgh, we've got a nice little pogo park set up. So we've grown a little bit. Yeah.
Pogo Park. That's a really cool name. And what does a pogo park consist of? Is it like a skateboard park, but more flat for bouncing off, like up and down?
Yeah. Essentially, it's a pogo park that has a lot of different suspended flat platforms, tall walls, tall things to jump off of, tall obstacles to jump over. Got a few grind rails here and there, and then maybe your floating boxes that you can move anywhere to make customizable lines throughout the pogo park. So it's pretty similar to a skate park, except no ramps.
Okay, that's very cool. And so then the whole aim of the game is to connect combinations of pogo skills into like little mini routines, kind of like you do on a trampoline or in skateboarding, where you can connect one rail to another or this, that to the other. And then how do you judge it? How does the competition actually go?
We have 5 judges, and they judge on difficulty of tricks done throughout the run. Whether or not anybody bails. If you bail, it's -5 points per bail. And how much they use the course. So we try to really push people to jump from box to box and, jump off of the taller ones. Doing, flips off of a 8-foot box will get you more points for difficulty and use of the obstacles.
And what about style? Do you have like a style factor in there so you can do a backflip like the other guy, but with your own unique sort of flair?
Yeah, there's sort of like variety of tricks are taken into account too, because everyone's doing a lot of the same tricks, but there's some people who can, they're the only one that can do Bruce Lee is a trick name, for example. So that'll get you more points with the judges if you're doing something that they know no one else can do.
And what's the craziest thing you guys have done on a pogo?
Dalton's got the craziest for sure.
Not the
Yeah, I've done all sorts of weird flips. Me and Tone, actually, we're one of the only people. We are the only people, if I'm not mistaken, that have done what I consider to be my hardest trick, is the Slingshot Flip.
Yep.
And this is a flip where you're going to jump onto the pogo stick backwards, do a front flip, pass the pogo stick under your legs while doing the flip, and you'll land the front flip back facing it forward instead of backwards like you started. That's one of the craziest tricks I've done. Besides that, taking it out to the streets, we've done some crazy, dangerous stunts there where we'll jump off of small buildings and do flips onto like bus stops and things like that. And so there's a lot of stuff we've done out in the streets that are a lot more dangerous.
Jumping over cars.
Oh yeah.
I saw you guys have a world record for over 3 cars. Is that still correct?
Yeah, right now I have the record for jumping 4 consecutive cars. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's a fun one. That really that uses skill for jumping high, for precision. It's like just one of those skills that really I didn't realize I could have until 10 years of jumping every day, and now I can just bound over these cars. It doesn't even seem real.
Would you ever try to pull a Damian Walters and jump over a moving car?
Oh man, that's been in the works. It's super hard to time up with the pogo stick because we can't really adjust when we're jumping. Once that pattern is set, we're kind of going. So it's a lot of trust in the driver. Haven't found the right
Hockey
driver.
equipment, you'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Okay, so now where do you see? Okay, so how have you developed this sport? Like from a more of a business perspective, what's it like to try to build this community? Is it a lot of outreach with people just like Pogo what? And is it just fighting through that sort of barrier? Or is it something that's so unique that it's actually not hard once you kind of show people a video?
I'd say the hardest part's always been getting new people involved in the sport. And that's something has been kind of the main focus of the business since the beginning, is to try to grow the sport, to get more people involved, which we've tried to do mainly through, doing these performances and releasing videos and getting it out there in front of everyone's eyes. And once someone new pops up, it seems pretty easy to find them because there's not that many people doing this. So it's just like, oh, there's a new kid on Instagram. This kid just landed his backflip for the first time yesterday, actually. And he's just something who kind of like popped up on our radar. So we sort of keep an organic look on.
And how big is the community? Roughly how big are we talking here?
I'd say we have about 20 pro athletes who compete at PogoPalooza and do these performances and go on these video shoots. But outside that, it's in the low hundreds, I'd say, around the world of people just, doing it for fun in their backyard and who are really engaging and,
okay,
watching
so
this.
It's a pretty niche market. So you guys have the challenge of trying to now make that relatable to people. I've never even been on a pogo until I was in Abu Dhabi with you guys. And I was very surprised how tough that thing was. You have to work at that. That is a workout just by itself without even the flips, just getting the strength to even move that thing and get any kind of distance. That's definitely something crazy.
I would say it's a big learning curve really with the pogo stick, especially if you've never used a pogo stick before and you go straight to the big one. It's definitely hard to learn your sense of balance and sense of control for that. I've been told by a lot of people we make it look a little too easy, because when you actually ride that thing for the first time, it's wild. It'll buck you off if you're not careful. It can slide out right from under you. So it's definitely a big challenge to get started. And I think that's why also our community number is so low, because we get a lot of people that come into the sport and then they realize just how hard it actually is to progress to a level of insanity that we're at. There's a big gap between us and the guys just starting in the sport. So
yeah, so that barrier to entry where any kid on a trampoline can just bounce around, so it's pretty easy to get the basics of that. But to be able to bounce around on a pogo definitely does take a lot more commitment that I don't think the younger kids these days are as used to having. When I was a kid, you had to commit because you didn't have as many options. But nowadays, there's so many options now that it's very easy to just pick the easier one that gets a quicker starts. And it seems like it's a challenge for you guys. So moving forward, then what are your goals on how to build this thing? Are you going to try to make that barrier to entry smaller? But you guys said you're working on making your own pogo sticks. And is that going to help give a little bit an easier, almost like training wheels?
Yeah, the big pogo sticks we use, some of the problem is the foot pegs you have to stand on. Just to step up onto it, they're already 2.5 feet off the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's really scary for someone who's never been able to do it before. So what we've talked about for a long time and are trying to work with some of the pogo manufacturers on creating is a pogo stick that lowers the bar a little bit. It's a little bit easier to enter on. It's durable enough that it can hold an adult, but the foot pegs are only a foot off the ground. So if you need to bail, you can easily just step back onto solid earth. And I think that would lower the barrier of entry a lot, and I don't know, it's something that we've just been trying to work on, and balancing the cost of the pogo stick too. It's hard, with the professional models costing over $400 to sort of justify that as a newcomer to the sport. So if there was a pogo stick that was under $100, had the foot pegs, a foot or so off the ground, but could still bounce 4 or 5 feet in the air and be strong enough to hold an adult, I think that could be a game changer.
So your big barrier is the equipment itself. It's not even doing the skills. It's not really safety as much as, obviously, you're still risking things. It's really the equipment that isn't easily accessible for young kids to get in.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of the pogo sticks that are really affordable aren't quite as durable. So there's kind of a gap in the marketplace between these, a pogo stick that is under $100 that is great for a kid, but as they grow, it's a very big step up to these professional models, price-wise and difficulty-wise.
That makes sense. Do you guys have an educational program that you give to your community, or is that still being worked on?
I think that's still being worked on. There's a lot of people who have sort of independently, and we as X-Pogo in the past have put out tutorials, and one of the Pogo companies puts out tutorials on YouTube that are helpful, but I don't know. It's still a lot of self-learning required on the end of the jumper.
Do you think that if you were to take a traditional athlete that's, let's say highly trained traditional athlete, or a not so highly trained freestyle athlete that's a little bit more outside the box, but yet the skill level's down, who do you think would pick it up faster if you had to put a bet based on what you've seen?
I think the person who's a little out of the box.
You have to be out of the box to do it? Gotta be a little cuckoo?
Yeah, you definitely have to be a little off balance.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, you gotta be able to adapt.
That
is good. You gotta be able to adapt too. You gotta you need someone who knows that this skill is gonna be completely out of the comfort zone and out of the norm of how you usually move your body. The actual feeling of jumping on the pogo stick and keeping your balance while doing these explosive tricks is just so bizarrely different than any other movement I do. So it really takes an outside of the box thinker who can adapt to new movements. So I think if you're like a militant, perfect form type athlete, it's actually going to be much harder to start the process of jumping on a pogo stick. But if you've got the scrappy, balls, I guess, to just get on something new and really test it out until you figure it out on your own, I still think that's the best way to get into jumping because it's just so bizarre.
That's cool. Figure it out as you go. That's the best way to comprehend what you're doing. Love it.
Yeah, take it slow and safe, but figure it out on your own, and it'll be built into you. Yeah,
I like that. Built into you. Very good. Very good. So when you guys are then on the road and you're doing a show, give us a quick little 1-2 on how does the show go? What's the rollout? What's the duration? What skills are being thrown? Give us a quick little recap of that.
So the show on the road is basically you kind of show up to a place, you fly in, you meet up with the homies at the airport, usually baggage claim. Everybody's all hyped to see each other. Cruise over to the hotel, meet the clients. Everything's pretty standard in that regard. As far as the actual show goes, it'll usually start a little slow. We're out there getting warmed up, not really revealing any of the big stuff that we have to throw yet. Just kind of mid-level bouncing, some no footers, no handers, just getting the people engaged, oh, I see them doing some of that stuff, but I want to really see what they can do. You talk to them a little bit, tell them a little bit about the history of the sport. At this point in the show, we'd probably bring out the old school pogo stick that most people are used to seeing, what most of us got our start on. So the spring powered pogo stick, and we demonstrate really what the sport's roots were at that point. So a lot of flat ground, like similar to flatland BMX style tricks that you would see and stuff like that. Obviously, we're going to have to push up the level, though, from there. So we bring out, typically at this point, the high jump bar, and we start showing you the level of height that these pogo sticks can actually build to. And in the show, we usually top it out around 8 feet or so, just giving you a little taste. And then at that point, we kind of go off doing big tricks and flips over the high bar. And at that point, the show really builds to a big freestyle event, if you will, where all the athletes involved in the show come out and they just kind of throw down the hardest tricks and combos that they can for the crowd, being called trick for trick, using the obstacles in the show if they can, and really building up to the end, which we like to save the flashiest for last, I guess you could say. So big flips at the end, synchronized flips, big flip tricks, all sorts of stuff, flips in a row, flips over crowd members and each other. It's a lot of crazy stuff in the show, and it just builds and builds, and you're never really stuck watching the same thing, I guess, because a pogo stick can be very repetitive. So I feel we spend a good 20 to 25 minutes building up that show in the show and really showing the world that a pogo stick is not just repetitive. You can do a lot of different things depending on how you want to ride, but it's still a lot of fun to watch too.
That is very cool. I got to see one of these shows. I was talking to Will about getting in with your PogoPalooza at some point, doing some kind of cross partnering sort of thing. We'll have to definitely keep in touch on that one. But Gart, give me some juicy stories. What is the worst thing that's happened during a show? Have you ever done one of those ones where hey, I need an audience member to come lie down here and get pogoed on, or do a backflip over? Have you guys done anything crazy that you really wish hadn't happened?
I would say Dalton probably. This isn't technically a show, but Dalton's first ever PogoPalooza appearance, he tried to go all out in his final run, trying to huck a double backflip dismount right there on concrete. Comes up a little short, breaks both his kneecaps and his nose.
Oh, Dalton,
Yeah.
can you tell us what went through your head when you were doing this?
Well, I'm 13 years old, just starting my career. That would be of being a pogo sticker. And I really just wanted to prove myself at this competition and show all the dudes that I've been looking up for a couple of years. I wanted to show them that I was serious, that I had some cojones, and that I wanted to compete with them. So I baked into my head that I was going to end my run with a double backflip, no matter what happened, no matter how nervous I was. I was just going to end with that trick. I had only trained it a couple of times with an actual trainer, with a gymnastics coach, and he was spotting me and giving me instructions, and it always took a lot of warm up to get to the point where I could do it. But I just decided on that day, I felt it. I felt like it was time, and so I threw the trick, and it did not go very well. And so after about 4 months of recovery, I was back to jumping, and from there, I just kept on keeping on.
Oh my God, dude. What was going through your head? At what point did you know that you were screwed?
Oh, I knew when I first hucked the double back, I could feel that I wasn't fully committed. Like, I just kind of left my body. And so I was just waiting to smack, and I hit the ground, and I knew I had hit the ground, but I was so discombobulated. It took me a couple hours to process what had happened, but pretty much my mind went blank.
Okay, can you bail? Like, is there a way to be like, oh crap, it's not going to work, quickly bail out at the first flip, or is that not really possible?
There are, but I was such a young athlete and not much training at this point. So if that were to happen to me now, I think I could bail out of the same trick and I would be okay. But when I was 13, I was not ready. I was full of nerves. And I just wasn't practicing any safety, honestly. So I went for something I probably couldn't do. And so I had to take the consequences. I learned from it though.
That's good. You got to learn. You can't learn without making a mistake, right?
No, you can't. You just got to let other people make those mistakes if you can and learn from them. Then you don't have to go break your own kneecaps, you know?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Let everyone else be the suckers that teaches you everything.
Yeah.
Well, how did your coach teach you to do double back exactly? Were you on a pogo in his gym and he's like behind you spotting you, or how did that go?
Well, I trained on the trampoline, on a gymnastic level trampoline, figured out how to do a double backflip, and he gave me all the form and the pointers to do that. Then he basically just watched how I jumped on the pogo stick, kind of took what he was teaching me from the trampoline and tried to apply that to the pogo stick and how I could still use that same form. And then he tried to hook me up to like a harness, but it was too clunky, and it's hard with the pogo stick because you kind of move. It's hard to stay in the exact same place. So eventually he just had me trying it into the foam pit, and that was the go-to. Practice into the foam pit, put a mat onto the foam, do it onto the mat, and then, just take it to like the tumble track or something.
But that's with the actual pogo.
Yeah, that's with the pogo at that point. After we had left the trampoline, it was pretty much just, here's a soft landing. Make sure you keep tucked. Don't land on your neck.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. That's actually really, really funny. What was your favorite time? What was one of the most memorable moments or funniest moments during a show or during your travels or competition or anything?
I would say it's this thing that we used to do every year called the Pogo Adventure, which essentially is a web series we created where we would just load up a van full of dudes for 2 weeks at a time and just drive across the country, filming the gnarliest stuff we could, throwing down the craziest tricks, and just not really having a plan while we do it, just kind of going from place to place and seeing what we could do in the 4-hour span we show up to a spot, not break our necks at the same time while trying to do stuff that nobody's ever tried before. It gets pretty gnarly. I'd say a lot of my favorite times from the sport revolve around that sort of once a year thing. I mean, I have a tattoo on the back of my leg dedicated to it, so.
That's cool. That's very cool.
I think all three of us have tattoos, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. Matching tattoos. I love it. And okay, last question, guys. Where does Pogo go from here? Do you take the more show route? Because I saw on your website you've done over 10,000 shows. Or do you go the competition route, a bit of both, online content? Where's the push going to go?
Business-wise, I think a lot more shows, because that is where we've been able to have the most financial success. And, we're getting into like NBA halftime shows now and doing a lot of more high caliber performances, which I think is really, it's our bread and butter, and it's what's going to continue the company, keeping us afloat. Overall, sports-wise, I think a lot of it is really up to these kids on Instagram and social media, posting as much as they can, like posting every day if they can. We actually, past few years, have tried to do Pogo All May, where everybody tries to post one Pogo clip every single day through the month of May. And last year, I think we had a lot of people doing it last year, so we're going to try to do it again this year. I think that's really kind of the heart of the sport now. It's everybody interacting on social media, sharing their own progress and sharing, teaching each other how to grow in this.
So you think it's really a community coming together and living through online mediums like Instagram, sharing stuff through hashtag, through just self-tutorials. Here's what I learned. Here's what this guy learned, and kind of just sharing that all together and just get people doing that even more. And that's the direction you guys want to go?
Exactly, yeah. And, keeping PogoPalooza going as sort of this like one time where everybody who Pogos comes and gets together, because as great as it is, everyone's sharing everything online, meeting face to face, and those connections you make are much more valuable, and that really historically has been when everybody just collectively raises the bar of pogo sticking.
And that's like your world championships, right? Basically.
Yeah, that's our world championships, and hopefully we can do it again this year. We're a little messed up. It was supposed to be the end of June, and I think our current plan is to do a no spectator PogoPalooza, because we don't think that the whole country's going to be reopened by then, and just get the pogoers together, and that's kind of what it's always been about anyway. So I think that people will be stoked to see each other and compete.
Yeah, I think that's good. We see a lot of brands that we work with that are doing stuff online, and it's bringing a whole new dynamic. And people like Gary Vee are always talking about content, but it's almost like you needed a virus to have everyone actually take it seriously. And now we're all like, okay, we got to really go on that. So it's quite interesting to watch. That's very, very cool. If you guys had any advice for a pogoer growing up, what would be something you'd tell them to get into? What's the best way for them to start?
I'd say just start with jumping. Jump as often and as much as possible and get comfortable with it and fall in love with just the simple act of jumping on the pogo stick, because that is the core of the entire sport. And once you're comfortable with that new movement of like really extending your body function with the pogo stick, once you're there, then all the tricks are easy. All the movements are just, it's just something you got to get over the barrier of danger or fear. But I think any new jumper just needs to learn how to jump. It's as simple as that. Just really make the pogo stick a part of your body.
Very good. Very good. All right, guys, that was really awesome. Great to hear what you guys are doing. Sounds like your community is growing. Lots of different things you guys got to keep working on, just like everybody else. But I hope you guys do well. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Greg.
Thanks for having us.
This is great talking to you. We love seeing what you and your community are putting out. So hopefully we can just keep on cross-pollinating our crowds and
yeah, there's a lot of crossover. So yeah, we'll definitely won't be the last to hear from us. So thanks a lot for coming on the show, guys. And we'll see you at your next PogoPalooza.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a few things. There's a big world out there worth exploring, and I'm happy to be able to bring these great experiences right to you through this podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast and learned something, please share and take a screen grab of our funky cartoons and hashtag GRT certified for a chance to win a shout out to our community. Also, please leave us a review to be part of helping this information get out into the industry. It's much appreciated. Along with these podcasts, we have a large online content hub that we call the GRT Network, with many other interviews and full tutorials and written content discussing everything about acrobatics. We will be constantly growing this archive of videos like a cross between Netflix and Wikipedia for anyone in the acrobatic industry. We also have a complete online educational program for athletes of all levels that provides a do-it-yourself pathway to success for any acrobat. Check out our constantly growing library of playlists that will teach you anything from tightening up your social media, to how to get around fear, to even learning all the biology that underlies all your acrobatic skills. We work very hard with our team around the world to provide this exclusive content for you and appreciate any donations made to the FTA to help keep these episodes coming at you. And if you want all the content, become a GRT Network full member to get exclusive content before everyone else and access to special discounts and giveaways through our amazing global partners. Thanks, guys. See you next episode.